This conference will now be recorded.
Cool. I just got told we're not recorded, we are recorded. Anyway, our council minutes. If there's nothing, I'll ask for a motion we accept as presented. Councillor Cowan, Councillor Gardner, all in favor? Councillor Williams, you're in on this, I believe.
Yes.
Good.
I don't think
Okay.
it's
Carried.
yeah.
All right, number 2. Adoption of the agenda as presented to you. Is there anything there that no one understands or has questions on or anything? Hearing none, I will call for a motion to accept the agenda as presented as well. Councillor Cowan, seconder. Councillor Penner. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yeah.
Carried. Great, thank you. All right, number 3, finance. We will do both of them together. So have a peek at those and see if there's anything there that affects any one of you.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Rhonda, just need a little information from you on item number 2021-12507. Do I have a conflict on that?
12507.
It's the first one. It's the first
No,
item.
you don't. No, you don't have a conflict.
Okay.
That was us getting information, like the
All
town
right.
getting information. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I will ask for a motion then to pay the bills. Councillor Cowan, seconder. Councillor Williams. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great, thank you.
Murray, I think there was some other questions.
Yeah, I have a question if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. I was moving too fast. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just curious, Rhonda, the 2 debentures. What are we doing, or which ones are those? They're at 2517 and 2530.
Those are probably, they would be 2 in waterworks that we pay that we borrowed the money from the province.
Okay.
Because the larger debentures, we actually have them with RBC and Sunrise, and those come out during the year. So these are for older. Sorry, I don't have the my debenture book with me to tell you exactly which project, but debenture payments are due on an annual basis, right?
Okay.
So these are basically our loan payments.
All right. Can I ask another quick one here on 2531? What period does that cover?
That was the coordinator wages for I would say June till the end of September.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that was yeah.
Okay, if nothing else, we will move along to number 4, bylaws and proposed zoning bylaw amendments. And Rhonda, I'll let you handle that one, please.
Okay, if everyone recalls this bylaw, there was a mover and a seconder, person for first reading. Not showing that. But then it was tabled in order to get more information. And so our development officer, Nixon, is in attendance tonight. And what he actually did is he went through and provided that first attachment, which is a review of the proposed amendments. And he's placed the existing zoning requirements in black, the corresponding amendment proposal in green, and a brief explanatory note in blue. So he is here to go through all of that with you folks. Can you guys see him? Yeah.
So the first proposal was,
Just 1 second. Sorry, I'm just gonna move the microphone closer to him.
Oh, yeah, he's waiting.
You're a long ways away.
That's well. Everyone can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first proposal under section 23 was, which way do I do these? Okay, so currently we have prohibited objects in restricted or certain residential districts. So in the black there is what's currently restricted. And so we're just adding in number 5, which is basically prohibiting dumpsters in any residential zone except for multifamily zones. A couple reasons we do that is they don't generally fit on a residential lot. They're almost impossible to get a garbage truck in to turn around into a driveway to pick them up. And they cause problems with neighbors. So we're just restricting them in residential areas. Section 30.
Sorry, I was just gonna say it probably causes an odor issue too in a residential area. Because
Yes.
your garbage sits.
Yeah, they're considered a nuisance. Quite often we have, there's one I have in mind, but when you have a multifamily development with a dumpster right beside a house, we quite often get complaints from that house about smells. So section 3811 is building restrictions to airports. This is in line with everything we're doing out there. So currently we had this brief couple paragraph long requirement for not building within. And then we actually had physical pictures. I didn't put them on this report in the zoning bylaw. So we've changed that to no buildings or structures shall be erected within the runway strip. Then we've gone on to require a setback parallel and on the ends, both. They are different. And we have actually defined where the runway strip is and where the center line starts for all these setbacks. And it's, we had it simplified so it's actually understandable in the zoning bylaw. And then at the very, this is all in design with the new standards that are required, and JetPro has reviewed this one. And it's all, the numbers are correct, basically. And then where is it? The last part of it is an application for development permit involving property within the vicinity of the airport shall be accompanied by either a statement from Transport Canada Aviation or a certified professional engineer architect licensed to practice in the province of Manitoba. Just to ensure that the current standards are met, and that will cover us in the zoning bylaw if the standards do get more stringent or something, because there will be a professional in the industry reviewing every application. And then at that point, if the standards changed, we can review the zoning bylaw again, but we won't miss any, is the idea. If that makes sense to everyone. And then 3812 is metal shipping containers. So currently, shipping containers shall only be allowed in industrial zoning districts. So we don't allow them anywhere but industrial property. If they're on site for less than 90 calendar days, they're temporary. If they're on site for more, they're considered accessory uses. And then there's requirements for them. So we've proposed to the metal shipping containers in the industrial zoning districts. It's all the same except we added in somewhere here. They shall include a door for access to a building standard, because that's just a requirement. Once they're no longer in the shipping container, they're considered an accessory building and they have to have egress. So that's a building code requirement, so we just added that in there. But all those other requirements in there are already a requirement. And then we've added in that we can actually now allow them as a conditional use. in other zoning districts, any other zoning district. So you could potentially put one anywhere in town now. They shall be classified as an accessory use, so there has to be a principal use on that site first. They got to be located to the rear side of the principal building. They will be sided with a similar finish material as the principal building to the satisfaction of the designated officer. They shall include a door for access to a building standard as determined. They shall prohibit any storage of any kind on the roof. And further, the roof material of the metal shipping container shall be the same roofing material as on the principal building to the satisfaction of the designated officer. So it's not saying they have to re-roof it. That's saying if they do re-roof it, they can't just pop a tin roof on if their house has asphalt shingles. They need to match and make it fit the area.
So on your industrial part,
Yeah.
is that the amendment to the industrial portion, is that the same number of containers, or have you, that's in the existing bylaw?
Should be.
So that you haven't decreased the number of
Two for
containers
2.6.
in industrial?
No, it's the same numbers.
So,
That's
so,
what's existing right now.
Yes, it's exactly what we have right now. Yeah.
There and that.
okay, so in that, because the green
Is the new.
is the new stuff, and that
Yeah,
looks
green
the
is the
same
new.
in both.
Yes.
But it's the same.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted you.
And so then if they alter this shipping container, sorry, go ahead, Travis.
I just want to know, I actually have several questions on this. Should I wait till you're done with it and then we go back?
Yeah, I just got a couple more lines. I'll zip through them here and then we can start at the start again.
Okay.
So if they alter the shipping container, it shall be submit a report prepared by a structural engineer for any changes made to that container. And notwithstanding any other provision of the bylaw, the metal shipping container or similar uses as determined by the designated officer in any residential zone are classified as a conditional use. So you can't put one in a residential area without going through a conditional use process. So those are the changes to shipping containers, but you have questions?
Travis, go ahead.
Corey, first of all, on the residential zoning area, like I'm sure you're aware that containers are being used for some pretty neat housing, actually, housing solutions. Would this preclude someone actually doing a residence out of a set of containers?
That would be complicated. It would be classified as a conditional use if it's a shipping container. They'd have to have a structural engineered report on it, but they could build one out of them then technically. They would also have to meet all the bulk requirements for a dwelling though, so size and site coverage and heights and all that stuff as well in the design. So
Yeah, I realize that, but you know, I'm sure they still have to meet all the codes, but in generalizing as shipping containers, would we be precluding using them in a residential area if it were correctly designed and meets all the codes otherwise? And maybe what I should add is, or could we change the wording that would still allow shipping containers to be used for a solution like that?
I'm just looking to see.
He is looking through his notes.
Okay.
So what you're saying, Travis?
It says they can be used as a conditional use. Number 8, Corey. Notwithstanding any other provision of this bylaw, metal shipping containers or similar uses by the designated officer within any residential zone are classified as a conditional use.
Right. So I would look into the definitions here Just going through it.
We don't need to answer
Yeah, we
them all
don't.
today, but I'm just
No, well, we
wondering
don't
is,
define shipping container, we define a modular home, so that would be more of a modular home because it comes in many pieces.
as long as the wording in this bylaw doesn't exclude them using shipping containers for a use that obviously has, would have to be designed for it. But
No, this would not exclude them. This actually steps forward and starts allowing them more. Currently, our current zoning bylaw prohibits them. So they'd have to make a case for the modular home dwelling definition in order to be able to do it currently. But now that we allow it in as a conditional use, that would definitely help out.
okay, then when we go to the industrial zone areas, for lack of a better term, I'm a little concerned that we're making it too difficult to use shipping containers for storage. Like obviously, they've become a modern, cost-efficient method of storing materials and getting junk out of the way. And with some of this wording, especially where you need engineering, like they're engineered to carry, high loads and everything. So I don't think they'd need engineering just to be used as storage. But when you if there's a man door required, and keep in mind that many of these shipping containers have like the entire side opens up, and then if you didn't, if it would be a requirement to have a man door in there, then it would need to be re-engineered, and there goes all the economics of using these things. And I actually think they should be encouraged for storage where people are storing things outside and it's a mess. They could be using a fairly cost-effective method to hide their mess. And some of the wording in here just makes it kind of difficult, I think.
The whole requirement for a man door, that's a Manitoba building code requirement, so it just has to happen. It's quite a topic at Manitoba building associations and stuff like that right now. Because once you take the shipping container out of shipping and it's on site, we draw that line at 90 days in our zoning bylaw. So if it's there for more than 90 days, it's no longer a shipping container, it's now a building. And a building must have egress. So you have to be able to open that door from the inside. So the latch fronts on it can't stay. So you have to put an opening door.
So is the definition of a man door just simply one that you can open from inside? Like it doesn't have to be a swinging door where you have to make a new opening?
No, they could just take the gear off and make it latch somehow, or they could put an overhead door on the end, or just, man door into the hole. Anything that you can open from the interior of the building.
Okay, is it necessary that they go onto a concrete foundation? Like, I would just think that if they were stored level on a gravel pad or whatever, they wouldn't need to, make an owner go to all that effort of doing a concrete foundation and the engineering and everything that goes with it.
Right. The concrete foundation was just in there, so we just left it in there. As long as they sit on their points and in the middle points, right? So as long as they sit on something that they don't move, if it's just one container, a gravel slab pad, I guess, is plenty that they'll keep there. So if council wanted, you could remove that concrete slab requirement.
I would like to see, I'll tell you what I would like to see. I would like to see the engineering requirement come out of it, and the concrete pad, the engineering requirement, and to define that man door as one that could be opened from inside. And also the density. You're only allowing like 0.02% site coverage with them, and I'm thinking if you allowed 10 acres or 10 containers on an acre, you'd still only be using 3% of the area, and I don't think that's I think 2 is just kind of too restrictive. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. So if you go to the industrial site right now and you look, everyone that's got containers is kind of maxed out at what they can have on their properties. It doesn't look too cluttered with them. Now, if you take them and you start lining them up side by side and using them as buildings, we start running into fire code requirements and fire separation requirements. So if you put too many on the site, you really start running into issues that way a bit. We could just let it be governed by the fire code and building setbacks, because even though it sounds out there, they're a steel structure, but they have no fire rating on the walls. So if you stack them side by side by side and they become buildings, they don't meet the limiting distance requirements. So that's one of the reasons that there was just you can have so many on a such size of site, and it kept them organized and neat looking.
Where does it say they need engineered on the industrial sites? I don't see that. Or is that just part of the Manitoba building? I'm missing that.
I'll tell you in a second here. I think I highlighted that.
Under the industrial zone. I don't. Or is that with section 25.4 of the bylaws?
No, I think that's in the number 2 in the
So
residential.
if you go to the green, printing and you look at number 7, applicants shall submit a report prepared by a structural engineer licensed practice in the province of Manitoba that approves any changes made to the metal shipping container.
But that's only if it's in other zones, Travis. That's not if it's in industrial.
Well,
Numbers used as metal shipping containers in all other zoning districts shall comply with the following regulations. And then that's where number 7 falls under.
okay, metal shipping containers in industrial zoning districts, right? That's the way I read it. This is part of
and
the.
that goes down to I. And then you'll see number 2, metal shipping containers in all other zoning districts.
Okay, so if it happens to be something other than residential, do we still want to restrict them this way?
We can remove the requirement for the engineering and the requirement for the cement slabs and just leave shall comply with the Manitoba building code in there. That way they can plunk them in, and if they're just removing a door and putting a door in, they wouldn't need engineering, but if they're going to start cutting into the side of it, then the code requirement's going to supersede the bylaw anyways.
It doesn't say
Yeah.
engineering for
Yeah, well, that's what concerns me actually is when we're forcing them to modify them, then it becomes expensive to get engineering done on them. In fact, it would double the cost of them. But I just go around town and I see places where people should probably be using those containers. But if we make it too restrictive, the mess will stay and they'll only get worse.
I think maybe with the Manitoba building code put in there, that might cover a larger area and give some teeth to it.
Yeah, and I don't know if teeth is what we're looking for, but I don't think we can get around the code. So we would have to comply with the code in any case, I think, right, Corey?
Yeah, that's non-optional. We have to do that.
Yeah.
So we could amend it. This would be section 1. We would remove section 1C. 2C, sorry. Which is the concrete slab. And we would remove 2E and replace it. No, we just removed 2E. That's the requirement for a door. And then in 2H is shall comply with Manitoba building code. So once it becomes a building, then I can just work with them on the permit there.
So you leave H.
Yeah, H would stay.
Yeah.
And then you go into 2, which is metal shipping containers in all other zoning districts. You could remove the 2.4, which is shall include door for access to the building standard. And we could remove 2.7, the weird way I wrote this, which is the requirement for the engineering. And then we leave 2.6 in there, which says it has to comply to the building code, and that would be caught through the permitting process if any changes needed to be done. Not saying they have to at that point.
Which one? What was the last one you're talking about?
2.7.
2.7, we were doing that as well.
Make sure it is. Okay, so 2.4 and 2.7. Even the doors are under the building code, and the engineering is included under the building code.
Right.
So you're saying,
Okay.
Yeah. So that would remove the requirements for concrete slabs and anything to do with altered building. It still leaves the requirements for the so many per hectare.
Yeah, do you like who determines that? Like, is that something that's discretionary on our part, or is that a building code item?
That's discretionary on councils. That's just the standard that you typically see across the province in the zoning bylaws that our planners gave us. So we just go with that.
What do you think the issue would be if we say doubled or went to 10 on that? Is that a problem?
I guess.
Like, you know, some of them are only, maybe we should go on area, because some of them are only 8x8s and the next one's 40 feet long. And yet we're limiting them to 2. Should it be the percentage of the area, or would that make more sense?
I think something we talked about before was, when do these become a building that we don't get tax dollars for? Like,
But if
that's
you need
all
a,
it's used for is a huge building, does it then become a concern? I just recall Councillor Baker bringing that up at the last meeting.
but couldn't we include these in the tax roll? Like if that's our goal, like then let's make it easy for them to put it in, because you could gain some taxes out of it.
They got to be structures in order to be.
Yeah, I don't know how Manitoba does.
So if we can't get taxes out of them, aren't we better off that we want to encourage people to build a building instead of have stacks of these?
Unless they're becoming a permanent structure through the building code and actually are on a slab and
Yeah, well, once they apply for a permit from me, then it would be taxed as a building, because they're no longer a shipping container, right?
So then that's when they have to comply with all the building code and everything, right?
Yeah.
So you'd have them spaced apart. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they have to meet all code requirements. So if they're not big walls, so it's not a big space. But it's by square foot of wall and how far away you have to be to the next one, right? There's got to be a line drawn in the middle.
Okay.
Councillor Gardner?
Yeah, Corey, I'm just wondering why do we have to have a concrete slab? Could we not just do footings instead of a concrete slab?
We can just remove the requirement for concrete slab altogether. Because when they move it from a temporary use to a building, the building code requires a foundation under every building too, unless it has a frost deformation, frost resistant. A foundation that can flex with the frost anyways. And so if they had one shipping container, it would be, in my opinion, that the foundation could be a gravel pad, same as mobile home. If they wanted to stack them permanently, 2-story, it's required to be engineered regardless.
So if they became, at that point, they become a building, and they would be accessible.
Yes.
So then you could have more.
Yeah, so instead of having a shipping container in the yard, I'll be telling assessment that we had a 8x40 shed.
Okay. So that's when it becomes a building.
Yeah.
So then that isn't accessible. So you could increase the numbers if that's the case, if they're permanent.
Councillor Panic.
Tina, I just wanted to respond to your comment about, that we, kind of forced them to build buildings rather than use these. But I think what would happen is that they just wouldn't build a building, and we'd be stuck with a mess. These things are usually used for storage that you can't afford to build a building for. And
I was just thinking, like, some of the prices I've seen, they're expensive. And if somebody wants so many, I thought it would be more cost effective to build something. But maybe in certain industries, it's easy to get your hands on these.
Where it changes is where somebody's actually renting them out for storage.
Right.
Well, yeah, and they're pretty economic for storage. Like they're not that expensive. I mean,
Okay.
still cheaper than building a building, put it that way.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? We have it written in here a few times. Removing the requirement. Me thinking here, we could remove the requirement for how many are on a site once they're on site for more than 90 calendar days. Because then it says right here that they shall comply in section 25.4, which is accessory uses. And that governs how many square feet of your lot you can cover with buildings. So then the principle's the same, you could build 6 different sheds, right? If you only cover that many square feet. So we already have that regulation in there. But if they're on site for 90 days or less, I would recommend we leave the 2 per 2.7 acres, 4.9 acres, and 6 for anything larger.
That's for temporary storage, like.
Yeah.
And then just eliminate the restriction on the conditional use.
I would leave that in there as for the residential, but that we don't have it. They're not in the industrial. So,
But wait,
Is it not a conditional?
oh, it is. They are conditional use in industrial as well.
Do we have to have them as a conditional use?
That's up to council. The reason we do that is so that they can go past council. And the neighbors get in industrial wouldn't be such a big deal, but in residential, I would really want notice as a neighbor. Just so you know what's going on. It's going to solve a lot of complaints coming into our end as well.
I definitely think we should have them have it a conditional use in the residential areas, but I'm thinking of the industrial side.
Yeah.
Because you'd need a conditional use hearing for every metal container that's going to be there for more than 90 days.
Yep. So typically what I do is if someone comes to me and they're planning on putting like 4 or 5 of them in over the next 3 years, we get them to apply for 4 or 5 of them in their first conditional use, because once you act upon it, it's still valid. So if you move 1 in this year and 2 in next year, you can have up till that number you applied for.
Well, I think we should remove that requirement for it to be a conditional use, and let's make it a permitted use.
In industrial, you were thinking?
Yeah, in the industrial areas.
I'm not opposed to an industrial.
Okay, so it reads something like this. Metal shipping containers in industrial zoning districts shall comply with the following regulations. 1, if on site for less than 90 days per calendar year, they shall be classified as a temporary use. They shall be located to the rear side of the principal building. For sites less than 2.27 acres, there shall be no more than 2. For sites between 2.27 and 4.94 acres, there shall be no more than 4. For sites greater than 4.94 acres, there shall be no more than 6 metal shipping containers. The reason we have those numbers is actually even numbers in hectares, splits up different than acres for some reason. They shall comply with section 25.4 of this bylaw. And then section 2 is if on site for more than 90 days per calendar year, they shall be classified as an accessory use. They shall be located to the rear side of the principal building. They shall be painted to match the color of the principal building. They shall comply with sections 25.1 and 25.3 of this bylaw. They shall comply with the Manitoba Building Code. And we will remove I altogether, because that's the conditional use one. So then in section 2, metal shipping containers in all other zoning districts shall comply with the following regulations. Shall be classified as an accessory use, shall be located to the rear or side of the principal building, shall be sided with a similar finish material as the principal building to satisfaction of designated officer, shall prohibit any storage of any kind on the roof of the metal shipping container, and further the roof material of the shipping container shall be the same roofing materials on the principal building to the satisfaction of designated officer. They shall comply with the Manitoba Building Code, and notwithstanding any other provision of this bylaw, metal shipping container or similar use as determined by the designated officer within any residential zone are classified as a conditional use. That's how that whole section would read.
Okay, I have only one more comment. On the shall be painted to, like in the industrial areas now, shall be painted to match the color of the principal building. You know, sometimes I think that would look ugly. Can we just make it so that they're properly finished? I mean, you know, you don't want a messy, rusty old container, but maybe a brown or a brown container beside a brown building might not look that good. A white one might be better. Just an idea.
I'll find some wording here. Take me a second.
Maybe just properly finished, or
How about appearance must be compatible with surrounding area?
Like, you want a good paint job.
You don't want a green one or purple one.
Right,
you know,
yeah.
they usually come, you know, when you buy them new, like they're usually white, and
Yeah.
they look pretty good. And I just think we wouldn't want to mess with that.
Unfortunately, there's a lot out there that aren't it.
Yeah, exactly. He's just looking up wording.
We have this wording for general performance standards. The designated officer or council may require that the appearance of walls exposed to public view be improved where the appearance of such walls is inconsistent with the finishing standards of surrounding development. It's a lot of words, but basically it just says we can tell them it's too ugly and they need to make it look prettier. We're not cornering them into painting in a certain color or how they finish it, but we're gonna just tell them we're not gonna have a rusty shipping container.
Yeah, something like a proper attractive finish without unsightly stains or something like, I mean, you know, still got to have them looking good, but
Yeah.
maybe not brown.
Easy on the eyes.
Yeah.
Okay, I will just take section 37.2's general performance standards, and I'll just copy their number 2. And it's basically what I just said there. Yeah, so it's already the requirement that we have in the bylaw that if we didn't have something in there, we would fall back to that anyways, because it's a standard for general performance.
Right.
So it would be the same thing.
Okay, I'm good with that.
So can I ask a question then under the one that wouldn't be industrial, the one that would be the rest? So sided with similar finishing material or whatever. That would be the same, like if I wanted to do it, for example, I have a brick house. Obviously, I'm not going to put brick around it. You'd say, okay, don't make it green and purple striped, make it a color that you have a little, you'd be the leeway in that.
Yeah.
Basically, right? Okay.
Yes, yeah, it's the designated officer's opinion. So basically, yeah, you're exactly, yours would be different than one on the other side.
Right, like if I had beige siding, you could say I'd like it to be that color or whatever, but if I had something that couldn't be matched, you would help me come up with something. Right. Okay.
And if they don't like my opinion, or not my opinion, but the designated officer's opinion, then it goes straight to council anyway, so.
Okay.
Great.
Home occupations, Corey.
Okay, I just gotta write this out, so I have to read.
Before you forget what it says.
Thanks, Corey, and thanks.
We still have more for
I got like 17 more of these for you.
He's not done, Corey.
So section 43, home occupations. we're allowing body modification from a home-based business. So all we have done is, currently it says the home occupation shall not include adult entertainment, dating, or escort service, body modification, on-site painting, and so on. We literally just took out the word body modification, so now you could get piercings or tattoos at a home-based business as long as it's licensed by Manitoba Health.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds good.
Now, automotive and recreational vehicle sales. Currently, we don't have any regulations. We just have a definition. Such as says means the retail sale or rental of new or used automobiles, motorcycles, snowmobiles, tent trailers, utility trailers, boats, travel trailers, and similar light recreational vehicles or crafts, together with incidental maintenance, service, sales, and parts. This class includes automobile dealerships, car rental agencies, and motorcycle dealerships. So the new wording is we're putting in a whole new section, section 56, calling it automotive and vehicle sales. And then we're listing requirements. We're going to have 10 requirements added. So I'm going to kind of do both at the same time. So by adding these specific regulations to the zoning bylaw for automotive and recreational vehicle sales, or automotive vehicle sales, we're making it easier for a user to use our zoning bylaw. So when they want to come in and design a car dealership for car, they can actually go to this section and find it. Right now, we have most of these regulations throughout the bylaw and random parking spots or in various different spaces in the bylaw. So I'm going to go through it at the same time. So we're going to add in all work on vehicles or equipment, including but not limited to estimates, inspections, repairs, washing, and vehicle preparation shall be conducted inside the building. Section 32.111 already requires this in the bylaw. So we're just organizing it into one spot. 32 is the parking section. If required, landscape area is used as a vehicle display area for the exhibition, sale, or rental of a new or used vehicle. The owner shall comply with the following provisions. A fence or landscape barrier not exceeding 4 feet, not less than 2 feet in height, shall be erected where the display area abuts upon a public right of way or an adjacent property, and wheel stop shall be located at least 2.5 feet inside the said fence. Section 32.19 already requires a buffer. Yeah, it says any accessory off-street parking area associated with commercial, industrial, institutional, educational, or major recreational uses shall be provided with bumper guards, wheel stops, masonry walls, or ornamental fences in order to prevent the vehicle from encroaching onto public or private property. Said bumper guards, wheel stops, masonry walls, or ornamental fences shall be maintained in good condition at all times. So they don't require the specific heights there, and so we're just saying it's got to be between 2 and 4. Otherwise, it falls to it's got to be a 3-foot fence in a front yard. B to that one is vehicle display area shall not be located within a public right of way, on-site driveway, or on top of any building. That falls under that section 9 as well. Number 3, a lot area for outside sales shall be paved with concrete asphalt paving surface as approved by the designated officer. If the access from a public roadway, which is hard surface, and shall be graded and drained to dispose of all water accumulated in the area. Section 29 already requires that. We're just moving it over to make it easier to find. Yeah, there's a whole section on hard surfacing. This is, where am I? Number 4 is at least one permanent building shall be constructed for the use as a sales or administrative office having at least 600 square feet of gross floor area, constructed of wood, masonry, or other building material approved by a designated officer and set on a foundation. It's fairly general right now. We're just saying there has to be a place. We do already regulate minimum housing sizes, and it's to prevent sale offices like actual trailers coming in. So there's an actual building, a principal building in place for sales. Number 5 is the density of vehicles on a lot. shall not exceed 100 vehicles per net acre. The net acre excludes any on-site buildings, any vehicle display areas, and any required off-street parking stalls for employees and customers. This is to prevent the storage of vehicles in bulk. It restricts the lots to display. If we don't place a limit on storage, it may be considered as a storage yard and then required to be a fenced compound. Section 37.2 refers to developmental appearances. So it excludes the display area. But so if you have extra space, if you have 10 acres or whatever, it says you can only have 100 vehicles per net acre. The vehicles must be arranged on the lot in an orderly manner and provide for proper vehicular circulation. Section 32.2.1 already requires this in all new developments. The loading and unloading of vehicles must take place entirely on the property. That's section 34 is required for all developments. 8 is any new development should comply with the off-street parking regulations as provided for in section 32. It says right in it, it's section 32. And any new development shall comply with the landscaping regulations as provided in section 30. So it's already a requirement. We're just directing them to those sections for 8 and 9. And number 10, no automobile parts or equipment or related material shall be kept, stored, or left on the property unless stored in a fully enclosed building or a fully screened with a fence and or evergreen trees to the satisfaction of designated officer. My blue number 10 is missing, but we do already have the general. I was just in there. There we go. General appearance standards. Basically, there's a whole section on it on what you can and can't have displayed. So we're not adding a lot of restrictions to them. We're just making it easier for them to find in the bylaw.
So in this whole thing, what would be new? An actual new section or a new word?
In the automotive and vehicle sales, we would be, the requirement of a building, 600 feet in size is new. And it's very general about the 100 vehicles per acre. That's across between what is required. And that's to basically define the difference between display and storage and a storage compound. And then there's a range, 7 is loading, 8, 9, 10. And the rest is all there in other parts of the bylaw already.
So you haven't changed anything other than those two things?
Right, we just, the requirement for the 600 square foot building and
Display.
the display limited to 100 vehicle per net acre.
Everything else already exists. So if you didn't amend the bylaw.
It's still there, yeah.
I just want to make sure I understand.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Anything else, Corey?
Travis has a question.
Yes, he does. Go ahead, Travis. Turn your mic on.
Your mic's off.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, and then my mouse wasn't working. So how would 2A apply to the dealerships that we have today? Like, do they need a fence around their car yard, like, or a barrier between, say, take Virden Dodge, for instance, where they store their vehicles? They'd need a barrier between their yard and the service road, and everybody would need a fence.
Yeah, they need that barrier. It doesn't have to be a fence. It could be a fence or shrubs or something similar, but they don't, because they're currently existing, they don't have to come to conformance until they do a major change or something. But yes, if it was to come in today new, it would require that all the way down the frontage.
But as you know, car dealers are very sensitive to displaying their cars like fully, and I think you'd have trouble attracting a new dealer if he has to put a 2 or 4 foot fence around his yard. Like, They want everybody to be able to see that car.
Well, when we talked to Mainline, they actually begged us to help them get permission from highways to put one in. They want to plant a 2 to 3 foot shrub all the way across the front of theirs. And when we talked to Ford, after they seen the design of the fence,
HCFC.
the HCFC design, I guess, with the fences and the panels and stuff, he was actually, his only concern about putting that in front of the display area is he didn't want it in front of his shop entrance or his access to his building. No, that's parking area, so.
They're actually both quite excited at the opportunity
Yeah.
to improve the looks of their area.
How about point 3? Now we require a paved lot, and for car dealerships, that's a pricey installation. Like they'd be costing them what, about $4,000 a car to store it on asphalt, and you probably wouldn't have a new dealership. I mean, all of them are storing their cars on gravel surfaces now, right? Some, I mean, at least
Yeah.
partially.
They are right now. It is a requirement in the zoning bylaw already, so I'm not creating this new one. It's already there. Every off-street parking and loading space provided shall be hard surfaced if such area lies in front of the principal building, or if hard surfaced if the access is from a public roadway, which is hard surfaced, is already in the zoning bylaw.
So how would they respond if you went to them tomorrow to tell them they needed to pave under every car that they got stored? Like, they'd probably want to run you out of town. Do we need to change the current bylaw or what?
The 2 dealerships we talked to, they didn't have an issue with the paving requirement. Mainline had an issue if they had to pave their entire storage area, but that's not the display area. And so I guess we've had lots of businesses come to town and they're accessing on a gravel road to a paved street, and they go through the variation process if they don't pave their parking lot. We've done 2 or 3 of them in the last few years.
And this isn't for all their storage area, it's only for their display area, Corey, is that?
Yeah, vehicle display areas.
But,
No.
I'm just thinking though, like if we're not enforcing it anyway, either we should remove it, or how would a new dealership look at it if they needed to pave their lot, but the existing ones aren't? I'm thinking that would be a complicated question.
Yeah, it is. I find it depends who you're dealing with when they're developing there. Some people want it, some people don't. It specifically says outside sales shall be, so it's not like we're requiring any excess storage area or anything. So like in discussions with Mainline, for example, we discussed that we would consider they supply the plant, but we consider everything in front of the building as their sales area, because that's where it's paved and that's where they're selling vehicles, as the other ones are just off in storage when they have hundreds of vehicles laying around there.
Didn't they
Yeah, like
say
right now,
They typically sit their cars they have stored in the gravel area. If they had someone coming in to look for a vehicle, they would actually bring that car up onto the pavement because they don't want them walking around on the gravel. That is just one dealership's view of it, but.
That makes sense though.
but anyway, they're all like, none of them have their whole lot paved. And I mean, right now they probably have enough paved space for the cars they have, but nobody's getting enough cars. But when they're loaded up, they're all storing them on gravel or grass. In the case of Mainline, I guess.
But if they're storing them, that wouldn't have to be part of the pavement because they're not. So if they're stored and they're not really the ones they're actively selling, that part wouldn't have to be paved.
The idea is, because if they're on a gravel or if the parking lot gets a little muddy or something, we're tracking that on and we're covering our lines, and we track that for an entire block down all the time. And so the idea of having it as a requirement is if they didn't want to do it, they'd have to go through a variation. And then we could put a condition on that if this creates problems in the neighborhood, they would then have to pave their parking lot.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't mind seeing a granular surface there or something, but I know paving is expensive.
Corey, would this apply? Sorry, go ahead, Tina.
Oh, no, sir, I wasn't sure if you were, see this, I like this idea because if it is a terribly muddy space or whatever, it gives Corey the teeth, maybe that's the word, to deal with it. But like when Ice Cream Island came along, because I am not a fan of paving, because it's flood and all those kinds of things, it's not always the best way to go. When Ice Cream Island came to us, and I can't remember if it was a variation or a conditional, but they asked if they could not pave and said that they would keep down the dust and all that kind of stuff, and then we okayed it. So I think it would depend a lot on where a new dealership was going to want to go, then we could make those adjustments as we needed to.
Of course, this doesn't say that. This tells them that they need to pave it.
It can't be a variation.
Yeah, they would
ask.
Yeah.
Yes.
If they didn't want to pave it, they would be like, we're not planning on paving all that. And
So if a car dealership came to you and said, if we don't want to pave it, what do we do? You would say to them, apply for a variation or a conditional?
we quite
So-
often deal with people before they even apply for permits through the variation and conditional use process.
So should we add that in there? That if they don't want to pave, they should apply for a variation? Or that they'll be granted one?
Bylaw
I don't know.
can be a variation.
Yeah, I don't know if we can put that in there.
Yeah, like anything that can be a
There
variation.
is-
If we're relying on that, but it's not what it says, then, then either we should remove this or put it in.
Wouldn't most people that are doing a building or people who were building a dealership or whatever have dealt other places and know that lots of things in the zoning, wouldn't they just come and ask? Or would they already know, like a person who does that, would you already know that lots of things in the zoning bylaw, you can ask for a conditional or a variation?
Well,
And that's-
you'd hope they would, but maybe they just move on to another town.
I can't see that being the brightest view,
No.
if they just moved on and did that.
We do have section 10 in the bylaw that it's called duties of the owner. So if they're reading this, trying to figure out how to develop, they should read that part. And it does say development application has been approved and the permit issued, notified designated officer, obtain approval before doing any work at variance with the approved documents. This is not really variance, but we also have the variance to regulations section, which describes that I can give up to 15% or they have to go to council. If there's applications that pertain to general development regulations. So it is in the bylaw that they can apply for variances to applications of it.
Councilor Cowan, you had a question.
Yeah, like I see where Travis is coming from with like red tape. Like, why are we putting up red tape? And I also see like if we're just gonna variance it, why would we have it in there in the first place? Like I know it's base by base cases, like or case by case basis, but like we're not gonna say no to a whole new company just because they won't pave their driveway. So I get where Travis is coming from because red tape will push someone away before they ask questions, right? Or even read the whole bylaw, because who reads all that jargon? No, I'm just kidding.
Right. But we put regulations in here to ensure the quality of our area as well, right? So if I let a new development in here and they go down in a muddy area and they drive in and out every single day and they lay down mud and stones in front of Tim Hortons every single day, we've now damaged Tim Hortons, right?
I'm thinking
By allowing,
dusty into a residential area.
well, there's
Yeah.
that, and it's that, but that's why we put all the regulations in here, and that's why we do allow variations to them. So if you feel that it's too strict and you can accommodate and make sure it's not detrimental to that area, you can apply for a variation, right? When you go to the cities, you don't see any gravel driveways because it creates them more street sweeping.
You're also considering the neighbors of the development, not just the development themselves, right? That's why you have a zoning bylaw, is to consider everyone.
Councilor Penner.
Well, I'm just concerned that we have examples right now of places that don't meet this requirement, and yet a new place coming in, this is what they're looking at, and I just think it's a contradiction.
Isn't that just progress though? Because I mean, a house that was built in the 50s and a house that's built now, you need way more different features in it. And if you went to build a new commercial shop now, as opposed to one that was built in the 40s, it's way different. Like, I think as you progress, the next dude is always gonna kind of have to do more than the guy who did a decade ago.
Well, I'm just concerned about my experience in the past about how some of these how this regulation might have affected developments, and it would have turned them away. And I just think we should be somehow we need to allow some flexibility.
Is there a way we can put flexibility into that, Corey?
They can ask.
That's what your variation is.
I mean, common sense has to play a part in it as well. But if there is some way we can put some flexibility and attain what we're looking for, but still be able to attract businesses and not drive them away, I think that would be the goal that we'd all want to see. Councilor Penner.
I wonder if it makes sense, Corey, that we put a time limit on, like maybe give them, a few years or whatever to pave it. If that's the only bit of flexibility we can build in.
That might make more sense.
Like, you mean that if it's like, say it's, I don't know, say it's like an acre they'd have to pave or something like that. I don't have an example, but that we'd say it has to be done within X number of years. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, I guess I want to give this a little more thought, but I'm just wondering how this restriction would have limited development in the past and what it could do in the future. We spend a lot of time and energy and money trying to attract business, and this is a kind of a regulation that actually might make the difference between attracting one or not.
We could change this, take it out, and we could just say that it shall comply to section 29. Section 29 on the bottom of it. So it would require the display area or the main travel area to be paved. But any area to the rear side of the principal building or required for off-street parking loading spaces need not be hard surface, but shall be of a surface that will minimize the carrying of dirt or foreign matter onto the public roadway in the following districts. So commercial central highway, commercial neighborhood, which we have none of, commercial linear, and industrial business in general. So basically all our commercial and industrial zones. It does leave that option that not the whole thing needs to be paved, but the main entrance is required to be. And then if they didn't want to pave the main entrance at that point, they would do the variation process.
Does someone proposing a new development, if he can cite an example of a future competitor of his that doesn't comply with this, does he have flexibility to then only meet those requirements? I guess in the case of a car dealership, if he sees the other dealers don't have paved lots, like can he get a variance based on that?
Not based on that, no. So what exists today is legally conforming through however it got there, unless it's an illegal development. I'm unaware of that. So going forward, everything has to comply to our laws, right? So if you were to come in today without this change, you would be required in a commercial central area or commercial highway area, every off-street parking and loading space has to be paved. Every access to in a commercial central or commercial highway, industrial business, or commercial linear shall be hard surfaced if access is from a hard surface road. So currently I require you to do that, but we don't require you to do any of the rear side portion of the parking area. So every development that's come to me so far, they usually talk to me, hey, we're gonna do this, and so this is in my checks we go through, and it's like, well, your entire yard is gravel, you're gonna have to pave that, and then we talk through it, right? If they say we don't wanna pave the whole thing, I inform them and let them know that there's the option for variation, and then they have to take it to council. But it gives everybody within that 300 feet, 100 meters of the property plus council the chance to review the application and have their say. It is a really good way to ensure the development controlled. It does leave some leeway for not the main travel area at my discretion, or the development officer's discretion.
But you're a reasonable authority, not everybody is.
I mean, if you have an unreasonable person in my position, then you gotta throw the zoning bylaw out though.
Or the zoning guy.
I'd recommend that to alleviate and make it not hard set in stone is that you'd replace number 3 with, it must comply to section 29 of the zoning bylaw. Because that gives us flexibility everywhere except the main entrance, basically, and in front of the building. And then if they wanted to vary that, that would be just like when they came in, any other development.
Okay, well, that might be the answer. I have a question on number 4. If someone were to develop a dealership or whatever, but lease property next door to him that doesn't have an existing building, or in fact, maybe even a paved yard, he wouldn't be allowed to pave the yard. How does he set up his business in that situation? Is it possible to do that, or in other words, where they're using a separate property just for their sales or their show or their display area?
Currently, we don't regulate that. You can't. Yeah, currently we don't regulate, you have to have a building. It's regulated on the use. And so, yeah, it's adding in, so if you were just leasing a lot beside you, like that lot, the lease has to come with the application, I guess, right? And you have to prove that you're gonna have that lot for your area. It's complicated. I guess, like, are you asking about the building requirement or?
Well, yeah, because it's requiring a sales building on the display property, right?
Right. Yeah, so if they leased it for the use of going with that development, then we would put that lease in file with it. And then we would know that that property is the display area for that building.
Okay. All right. Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah, and what I would typically do with that situation is that wouldn't be approved by myself. That would have to go through council. That is, I feel more than I'm allowed to sign off on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you know, go ahead, Carl.
When we look at a lot of these things, they're hypothetical. Because
Yeah.
if a dealership had cars on another lot that they stored them on, they're not their display vehicle. But if I came in and said, oh, I'd like to look at that car, He's not gonna say to me, I can't sell that car to you because it's not in our showroom or it's not in our show property. I just think the more things that we have that stand in the way of businesses to start here, the worse that it is.
Okay, thanks, Carl. Any other questions? Okay, Corey, you've completed everything you wanted to talk about?
No.
Solar panels, no. You said it's gonna be a short meeting, Murray.
There's
Yeah, right.
two sections left. Solar panels. So section 56, this is a new section we're adding as well. We currently don't regulate solar panels. They're becoming more and more popular. So we're stating that any solar collector not connected to a building shall adhere to the same setbacks and height restrictions for accessory buildings in the zone in which the installation is situated. Roof or mounted solar collectors shall not exceed the size of the total square footage of the principal structure. A solar collector that is mounted on a roof can project a maximum of 6.5 feet from the surface of the roof and shall not exceed the outermost edge of the roof. Solar collector that is mounted on a wall can project a maximum of 2 feet from the surface of that wall and shall be located a minimum of 8 feet above grade. Any solar collector that shall comply with the Manitoba Building Code, and prior to installation, a building permit is required. Notwithstanding any other provision of this bylaw, any residential use class that incorporates a solar collector in the building design shall be classified as a conditional use. So we have sections 37.1 and 23. They refer to objects not allowed and the appearance of residential. There's currently no regulations governing solar collectors. So it would be left up to my opinion on a solar collector being a prohibited item or not unsightly in nature. Putting this in gives the homeowner an installation standard and at the same time ensures the surrounding community and council would have a chance to review the application to ensure it doesn't devalue the neighborhood. Did I read this conditional use? They're going to be conditional use anyways. But so right now, section 37.1 and 23, if you're putting a solar panel on top of your roof that sticks up 6.5 feet above your roof, my opinion is not going to benefit you. I don't think that's residential in nature. So this gives them that regulation. It gives me that regulation, like my position, that regulation saying that they can have it up 6.5 feet and that's considered residential use. And it belongs there. But as it fits right now, it's totally on the opinion of whoever sitting in my position.
That makes sense.
Councilor Penner.
So two quick questions. So the setbacks wouldn't allow them to be put on a front yard, right?
Right, they have to conform to an accessory use, so that's beside or behind and 4 feet off your side yards.
And this also doesn't restrict them from going on a roof even though they're visible up there, right?
No, it does not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Appendix B. Are you on appendix B?
Yes. Last one. Appendix B. Oh, sorry, second last one. We went through this last time. It's the following uses in the commercial central zone are considered a conditional use, and we're taking them and making them permitted to make them go faster. So business support service, publicly owned and operated carnival, convenience retail store, eating and drinking establishments, general retail store, mobile catering food service, mobile food vehicle, outdoor food cart, personal service shops, professional, financial, and office support staff, shopping centers, spectator entertainment establishment, tattoo parlor, government service, and public library and cultural exhibit. Those are all being changed from conditional uses to permitted uses. It saves an average of up to a month in time in the development approval process for downtown. Because right now, we decided when we rebuilt our zoning bylaw, we were concerned about having an appearance guideline and everything for downtown. So we just blanketed everything as a conditional use so that we could control development down there and make sure it was starting to turn the way the town is wanting it to. But we're finding it to become too big of a hindrance for the businesses. And now we have the HTFC guidelines, so we have a vision and what we want it to go. So we're looking to just make these permitted so we can start approving them at staff level again.
Basically, this is getting rid of some of the red tape
Yes.
that Councillor Cowan referred to.
Yeah. If there's no questions on that one, the last change proposed is a zoning map change. So the zoning map is going to change to what you have in front of you there. We subdivided that road through just east of the White Owl from Anderson Street north. So everything on the west side of that new roadway is going to propose to be commercial highway. And just to clean up that zoning line, there is one residence in there still, and that house will be permitted to, it'll get a status of legally non-conforming. So it can be permitted to stay there and be carried on through its, as long as the owner of the current owner of that property wants to keep it there. So, and when they sell the next owner, so it can stay there forever. But when it does, when they do decide to bring it into conformance, it would have to meet commercial highway standards.
Okay, great. Anything else, Corey?
No.
I think that's it.
Okay, great. Rhonda, is there anything else you have?
No, I guess right now we have a motion that's been tabled giving this first reading. Deputy Dog, Development Officer has presented and provided some suggested amendments. So council can handle this one of two ways. They can give it first reading as per the amendments provided by Development Officer Nixon, or you can leave the motion on the table and it can be delayed until the next council meeting for council in order for Mr. Nixon to bring it back again with the changes.
Okay, two things. Can we move that table back into the center so we can hear everybody, please?
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Great.
Did
Thank
you hear
you.
what I said?
Yeah, I got most of it.
Okay, sorry, forgot about that.
And Councillor Penner had a question too, please.
So I was just wondering, would it make sense if Corey would make those revisions and then Rhonda, you could circulate that to us before the next meeting?
Yep, sure. So we'll leave it on that motion on the table and it will come to the next council meeting.
Great, okay, thank you. Everybody's okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay. Anything else in that amendments or bylaws that we have to deal with in that, or can we move on?
I believe you can move on.
All right, let's go to number 5. And Rhonda, I'll let you talk about AMM issues, please.
Actually, we don't have any to discuss this time other than just for those to remember that are registered for the insurance seminar. Yeah.
Good.
We're done with you.
And the date on that again, dear, was the 11th, I believe?
February. I don't have it in front of me. Sorry, we just don't have it in front of us.
Okay, not a problem.
Hold on. I have it written down.
Sorry, February 11th from 9 to, no, that's different.
9:30 to 11:30 is what my notes said.
Yeah. Well, that'll be sent out to us. So.
Or is
All right,
that
let's move along
No, that's this week or this month.
I'll have to look at that.
Okay.
Okay, number 6, recommendations from planning and finance.
I will recommend that we approve the November statements. Why can't I come up with RNE? Revenue and expenses. It's been a long meeting. The November revenue and expense statements that we were provided with, I will make the motion that we approve those.
Okay, Councillor Cowan seconds. Grant, I'll get to you just in a second. Let's finish this motion up. Any more discussion regarding this motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. Grant, go ahead. You had a question.
Tara.
Turn your mic on, son.
There was one thing from the AMM that I was going to ask Rhonda about when she was, is that the text that we're getting about the emergency urgent immediate action required for the province of Manitoba rapid test kit survey. Who's submitting that?
It's done. It's been submitted.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you. Councillor Williams, do you have any more on 6.1?
Nope, that was it.
That was it for you? Okay, thank you. Your battery's running low. Okay, I better plug in.
Yeah, I just had to do that too.
Give me a second, then we'll move along to number 7, Pioneer Home. And we all have a letter to that effect, I believe. And Susan Ivy and Rhonda, did you want to elaborate on that at all?
No, just that Susan wanted to thank myself, mayor, council, and staff for the assistance that we've all provided to the museum, including the grants and the other in-kind assistance we do on a normal basis, especially as the museum has been struggling with people attending, obviously, through the last couple of years.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, the next one is number 8, our CAMA letter. And I'll let you speak on that. It is addressed to you. And I'm sure
This was actually CC'd to yourself and council. It's a letter from CAMA, just thanking the CAOs and staff for the work and leadership throughout the pandemic.
great. That's nice to see. Nice to see. Okay, I guess we've come to the most important part of our meeting tonight, committee reports, which shouldn't be very long. Rhonda, I want to let you go ahead tonight.
Oh dear, no.
If you're ready, if you're not,
How about you?
I can give you. Jill, how about your report?
Did you say me?
Yeah.
I don't have one.
I just wanted to see. I wanted to see that deer in the headlight look there. Okay, if Rhonda, I'll give you a few minutes and go ahead, Councillor Williams.
Williams. Actually, I have, other than being in the office to sign checks over Christmas and stuff like that, meetings were canceled because of COVID.
Okay, good. Councillor Penner.
I think I only had the library meeting last night, and that's all I had since the last meeting.
Good. How's things at the library? Everybody happy?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, you've all heard that Mary Ann lost her husband and just before Christmas there, so that was a bit of a sad moment. But other than that, I think I'll have a few things to discuss with council after we get our budget done. And Rhonda, I've spoken to you about this before, but about their surplus and how they handle that going forward. So it's just something that we'll have to figure on for the budget, I guess. But
good. Thank you. Councillor Cowan.
I have nothing to report at all.
Excellent. Councillor Mashinsky.
I had a couple of meetings but canceled because of the COVID.
Mhm.
So I have nothing to report.
And was Santa Claus good to you?
Very good.
Ah, boy.
Brand new jet plane and 2 Cadillacs.
Selling that marijuana pays off, don't it? Councillor Gardner.
Nothing to report for meetings, just busy rescheduling meetings because of COVID.
Good. And Rhonda.
Well, yes, we didn't have any formal meetings since the last council meeting in December. I did take some time away from the office, which I quite enjoyed. Unfortunately, we did have some illness in the office, which did require me to come back on the one day, but that was fine. Our WIG meeting did get canceled for last night, just simply because our coordinators did not have all the financial information back from the accountant. But it will be going ahead as soon as they do have that. Reminder from Doug Griffiths about having your homework to them. They appreciate if they could get it by the end of the week, and then that way they can have it all written up and compiled so that we can have it for Tuesday night on the 18th when we have that online meeting with them. We are having our asset management training on Friday from 9 to 11. Auditors will be in the office. And as I explained, it's actually kind of a, tomorrow's, we might have to close down for a little bit for some repairs to go happen. Also, the assessors would like to have an impact meeting with council. They're suggesting June 15th, which is a Wednesday, because unfortunately all the Tuesday meetings are already taken, meeting dates. So are you guys okay with booking? We may just change that planning and finance for that for June from the 14th to the 15th. Does anybody else have like Wednesdays booked in June for anything?
Well, that's a long way out, Rhonda.
I know, that's why these poor assessors, they have to book them 6/11, like they're already booking for, tax impact to be June 15th. Do we want to have an open house here in Virden? Because that allows for the assessors to meet with ratepayers if they have any concerns. They've suggested the date of July 6th, and that would be in our council chamber. And then board of revision of November the 8th. Of course, that would be after, November the 1st would be the first meeting of the new council, so that would be the swearing in. And then the 8th would be the board of revision, which is going to be a pretty quick learning.
Right.
Yeah, but unfortunately, because it was moved a year, the revision year of COVID, so it's 23 instead of 22.
So we can ask for that July 1, is that what it is? We ask if we want to have the meeting?
Well, they said if we want to have and you as a ratepayer, yes, would come and meet. You could just come show up at it and meet.
Show up.
Yeah. So June 15th, July 6th, and November 8th.
15, July 6.
And yeah, we're just in the office, obviously, we're working on year-end matters. I'm working with our new community services manager, helping him to go through budget items, go through previous year's items, working on the programmer position for Thursday night. We've got lots going on. And then, of course, dealing with staff shortages here and there, or just changes in our schedules at our facility due to COVID issues.
Good.
With teams, etc.
Okay. Anything else there?
No, that sounds good.
Okay, for myself, there was a flying club meeting tonight, which I sent a letter. They were inquiring as to how we're making up with the airport. So I give them a brief description of how things are progressing. And we are still doing interviews regarding our fire chiefs. And that's about all I have to report. Yeah, we did one interview, went very well, and we have a couple more to do. So that's moving along too, but COVID's not helping that case. Anyway, we will move along now to number 11.2. Is there anything in legal or labor we need to discuss?
Yeah, so can we adjourn back into in camera and I'll turn
Yes,
the
sure.
recording off?
Can I get someone to make that motion, please? Councilor Gardner, Councilor Cowan, all in favor?
Yep.
Carried. Okay, we're back.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, to my knowledge, we only have one motion that we have to look at. Am I correct in saying that, Rhonda?
Yes,
Okay,
and that would be just to approve the vaccination policy as amended.
okay, can I get someone to make that motion, please?
I will.
Councilor Williams, can I get a seconder, please? Councilor Cowan, any more discussion? All right, I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor? Keep your hands up. 1, 2. All those opposed? 1, 2. Councilor Williams, I didn't get you. I'm sorry.
I'm for.
You're for, so 3-2.
Well, you have to vote too, please, Mayor. Right.
Okay, so it's 4-2. Carried, thank you. And it's nice that we can all vote the way we feel. Thank you for your honesty, and I appreciate this. I think it'll be beneficial to all of us. And I'm really impressed that the union will be happy with this, and I'm glad that the men brought this up themselves. So that shows a lot of support from our staff.
Men
Okay.
and women.
And if there's nothing else, I will ask for adjournment.
Sure.
Councilor Penner, I can't talk either. I got Rhonda's disease here. Councilor Cowan, all in favor?
Yep.
Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Jill. I know you can only doodle so much, but thank you for hanging in there, dear.